The May 1st New York State Eviction Moratorium deadline is looming closer as the country slowly reopens. What will happen with landlords and tenants moving forward after over 13 months of no evictions? Landlords who haven't been able to make mortgage payments without their tenants paying rent are already facing consequences.
Long term, my credit score is atrocious. I do not believe that any financier or debtor will take a risk or a gamble with me anymore because of the fact that, I haven't met my obligations as far as paying.
In the first quarter of 2021, nearly 34,000 U.S. homes had foreclosure filings, up 9% from the previous quarter. As tenants fear being evicted for non-payment of rent, landlords fear being foreclosed on for non-payment of their mortgages.
I had to go back to work full-time, teaching, in the midst of a pandemic, remote schooling 2 little children, one with special needs, nursing a baby, and taking care of a crippled, ailing, dementia-ridden mother who's bedbound. I've had to go back to work full-time to support this because my renter, with $1.4 million in his bank account and a prior record of not paying rent and being evicted for it, has not paid me in a year.
While landlords are dreading the prospect of New York's moratorium being extended again, tenant advocates worry about what happens if it isn't.
There have been illegal lockouts, there have been threats, there's been harassment. People have been offered money to leave their homes. The problem is if you give up your home of 20 or 30 years for a few $1,000s, what does that buy you? You don't have anywhere else to go. You're not going to find a similar place to live. So it's really a shame that landlords are using these other practices, these illegal practices to get people out. Why don't we just hold on together and wait and we'll all be better off? The rising tide raises all ships.
If I have to go another 6 months, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And then I'm going to lose what I've worked for decades of building.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has already moved to strengthen the current moratorium by announcing lawyers for property owners who violate it can face federal prosecution, and activist groups are looking to build on the current laws.
We are working to put in place a bill that's been sponsored by Senator Julia Salazar in the Senate called Good Cause Eviction, and the legislation would provide protections against unjust evictions and protections against rent hikes to millions of households across the state. So while we have an eviction moratorium in place right now, which is excellent and saving lives, we know that we need permanent protections that will last beyond the duration of the pandemic.
The current situation clearly isn't working for struggling tenants or landlords.
Once I do get a court date, the judge hopefully will award me a money judgment, but if or when he does, that doesn't mean that the tenant pays. The New York City Housing Court severely protects the tenants, so it's rare that a landlord can collect arrears that we're owed. The state did issue that new relief program for landlords to be able to apply. What that program is all about is the renter needs to qualify for relief. I highly doubt my renter is going to qualify for that relief. So where does that leave me?
I sympathize with landlords that have, especially small landlords that have missed more than a year's worth of rental income in some cases. And that's why it's so important that we start talking about rent relief. Was happy to see that rent relief was included in the latest Recovery Act. And I think that's super important to try and make landlords whole, make renters whole, so that whenever these eviction moratoriums expire, we don't just see a massive wave of evictions.
While some mortgage lenders are offering forbearance right now, it's not clear how long that will last, and without more relief, a wave of both foreclosures and consequently evictions could be on its way. With the May 1st deadline coming up fast, check back for the latest updates at The Real Deal.